Chivalry is dead nowadays, and becoming more unaffordable day by day for the average Gen Z dropout working for minimum wage at whatever location is close enough to his parents' house. In this video, we're going to sit down together and spend some time discussing how we're all so financially and why that might be the case. If you personally can relate to anything discussed in today's video, or you just simply been enjoying my daily doomer commentaries over here on the page, then don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, opinions below, and subscribe to see my daily videos right here on the channel. And a huge shout out to the handful of you guys checking out those links down below in the description. Those are always some of the best ways to support me and the content around here. Now, let's begin this shit show.
The 82-year-old Vietnam veteran says he has been working since his early 20s.
I helped my dad when I was younger, doing stuff for him. And then I worked at the test site for 26 years as a radiation monitor.
In 2009, he began working for McDonald's.
I restocked the soda station, which is lids, napkins, straws, and then I sweep and mop the floor.
He says throughout his various jobs, he was never able to save or invest in his retirement. According to AARP, about 1 in 4 seniors have no retirement savings. The 82-year-old hopes to someday retire, but for now...
Now, spending more than a lifetime working in what most would consider most likely a shitbox has to be extremely daunting on the soul. And being that I've touched on in the past videos that the majority of my laundry list of jobs I've had, the majority of my resume is food service myself. I've worked with many people who find themselves in this position. They just don't really have much option than to work these types of jobs, or people that work these jobs for years and years and years, hoping maybe one day be able to get a high enough raise, or maybe to be able to find themselves in a high enough position in the company to maybe be able to sustain themselves, build a family, have that, traditional lifestyle that we were, taught that we wanted so much growing up. We saw in all the movies, we saw in all the TV shows, we saw everybody around us one day potentially being able to get at least a couple of them anyway, at least, hopefully. But it's just sad to think. And then, you spend your whole day serving people food at some of the most, most populated food services in the country. Literally, some of these places, McDonald's, Burger King, Subway, these literally feed people every day more than most grocery stores. And then you get your paycheck, you go to the local grocery store, and you can't even afford to get your bare minimum necessities to feed yourself and maybe 1 or 2 other people in your family that you have to continue to support. So it's a nonstop cycle of just struggle after struggle after struggle, and then you find yourself here and you're like, wow, this really sucks. And again, I really want to stamp this home to a lot of you folks out there that this is not just like a teenage type of job. A lot of the modern day middle-aged folks are working in fast food jobs. If you go to Target, Walmart, at least all the managers there are going to be middle-aged people. And, if you think you're going to be... Now, I know there's going to be a couple of you guys beating the drum saying, well, if you just work your way up the corporate ladder and you just, hustle and hustle and hustle, you can get paid enough and you should be able to keep up with inflation. Sorry, guys. I worked at, at least when I was working at Target, I'll call it the company because I've shit on it many times in the past. I don't hate the company, but I didn't have a fair... I felt like I didn't have a super fair shot in terms of climbing up the corporate ladder per se, because I worked there for 3+ years. I was the longest working employee in the department besides one other person who, this older guy, Tim, who even said he didn't want to be manager. He said Josh deserved it. Well, then they got this new little pretty redhead girl come in, work there for 3 months while I worked there for 3 years, and they offered her the job before they even offered me the job. Now, some of you might say, Josh, you probably didn't deserve it, but tell me why even the manager, the girl who got it, came up to me and said, I'm sorry, I know I took your position because, I just fit the mold here. And that's what a lot of companies do. If you don't fit their mold, it doesn't matter how much you do for them, how much money you bring them, eventually the management will change and you will be either priced out or just cut out, and maybe even which oftentimes falls under an unconventional type of situation where you get fired over some bullshit reason. But anyway, if you guys ever experienced this, if you guys ever felt like you've been in this position before, or you guys currently going through this right now, feel free to let me know down below in the comments. I always love to read those.
Oh, how the times have changed. Basic grocery purchases by Kevin McAllister in the 1990 film Home Alone went from $19.83. Today, the same experiment ran a bill over $72 at one Chicago grocery store.
The leap from 2022 to today is wild, but let's look at purchasing power. In 1990, these groceries were $19, and the median household income was $40,000. Fast forward to 2022, the groceries basically doubled to $44, and the income doubled as well. That all makes sense. But in the past year, it went from $44 to $72, which is a 1.6 increase, but yet the income stayed exactly the same. If the income would be keeping up, the income should be $129,000 for the median household income. And what do you know? That is the amount of money that the average American family needs to have a shot at qualifying at the average house. So all this inflation, housing prices, daycare, student loans, consumer debt is all on the rise. and yet income is stagnant. That is a big problem that we need to fix.
The steady rise in cost of living has definitely been felt amongst the majority of the population, especially Gen Z millennials. I know there's many older folks that are feeling it, and younger folks that are becoming adults that will feel it soon enough here shortly, unfortunately. Sorry, it's gonna hit soon. But adulting is what it is, and it's just never been easy, and it just seems to be getting harder and harder as time goes on. And it seems like food costs seems to be really getting hit the most these days. Housing's been outpriced for years now, but food, we can maybe go without a house. Maybe I can find a way to sleep on the side of the road, but food, I need food to survive. So, who knows? Are we all going to be just, pitching up on the interstate with our little, like, cardboard boxes? Or, what do you think? If you had a cardboard box, what would you put on your sign? Feel free to let me know down below in the comments. This is something I've thought a long time. What would I put on my sign? I have some ideas, but I'd love to know yours first. So, feel free to let me know. Maybe you'll need them in the future, so maybe this is some good, this might be some good planning. We're actually prepping. We are preparing for our future of living in a Home Depot box on the side of the interstate.
What if
Is anything we just heard about or learned here news to any of you guys? Is this stuff that you guys haven't heard before, you haven't felt, you haven't experienced? Or is this just, or like you just sitting there with like a straight face, like, tell me something I didn't already know? But it really is crazy how they'll just, they hate when we call it out. They hate when Gen Z millennials, even these older folks are now starting to learn how to use cell phones, are starting to call it out. They're starting to say, like, you know what, this sucks. Like, you can actually do the math and you can, like, put it on paper and realize, like, wow, shit is not to say fair, because that's a word that gets misused, but it's not just, it's not close to what it used to be for the average person. And then once you point it out and you actually have some proof, it's like, well, work harder, get another job. How about I offer? And it's funny, you hear all these different interviews where you hear people get called out, then they'll offer the one individual person a job, but it doesn't solve the issue where it's like, it's going to end up being where the far majority of the population is going to be able to not going to be able to just like sustain themselves. And so what's going to happen then? Is there possibly going to be a second revolution, or maybe it's not a second, maybe just an ongoing revolution that happens over history? Is history going to repeat itself? Or do you think we're just going to become sheep and own nothing and be happy like the plan sets out? Feel free to let me know down below in the comments. Well, that's going to wrap up this video discussing how money just does not seem to go as far anymore, and earning it doesn't really seem to be as easy either. So if you have any thoughts and opinions discussing or regarding anything discussed in this video, feel free to let me know down below in the comments. I always love to go through those, read those, and respond to the ones I see fit. And a huge shout out to the handful of you guys checking out those links down below in the description. Those are always some of the best ways to support me and the content around here. And yeah, if you like this stuff, feel free to subscribe and like, and check out my long list of catalog of videos, like 200 plus, as well as feel free to stop by my evening live streams from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time, right over here on the channel every day, and get to know me and talk with the chat, the community, and all that stuff. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you next one. That's it for me today. So yeah, bye.